The NHS, really. I should think that is absolutely central and core to me. You know, free at the point of use is really important in all of our lives. To feel health is the most important thing. In the area for the constituency, that's important. You know, I mean, do sorts of research on it and things like that, finding out that per head of population, it's the second lowest in the whole of the UK, but it's got the highest rate of the 4 main cancers. The issues are going to be there whether Brexit happens or not. The issues are in the timeline, the pipeline. It's poorly managed. That is the essence about it. In fact, it's not really managed at all, it's administered. And so we're working, and we're actually going to meet up this weekend to work out a process for rectifying that. Yes, they behaved selfishly, especially the party that I used to be a part of, the Labour Party, which is now called the 2015 Labour Party. It's been taken over by people who have a non-Labour Party agenda, a Marxist agenda, and they're incredibly selfish, and they've just done everything possible to make it impossible to leave, not because they care a jot whether we leave or not. They just want to bring down the government. And then on the other side, I think it was the perfect storm with Mrs. May and Mr. Hammond. She didn't really understand it. She didn't have the capability. He did, but he was mendacious. And together they plotted to not implement the results of the referendum at all, and actually make a worse agreement than just remaining. So I was actually born in the council house that I lived in on my house estate in Whitehaven by the sea, and it was great going to school and all of that because it was only 400 yards away, and the school was great. There were a lot of fantastic teachers there, really enthused me about things, so I liked all of that. Me and my sister were like 2 peas in a pod, inseparable. I mean, we fought like cat and dog, as brother and sister do. She was 4 years older than me, but she was me, I was her, as we grew up, because it was really tough where we grew up. Really tough. You know, you got to a Thursday and you would have bread and dripping. You know, because my dad was, because he was known as a striker, he didn't get a lot of work. But if you got a pay packet or something, you know, the next day you'd get fish and chips or something like that. So I qualified as a barrister, and it was great. And Louis Blom Cooper's set of chambers, and then Roy Amlot's set of chambers. So that was a good grounding. And then I and another chap in the 1980s, we set up chambers down in Plymouth. The fax machine had been invented, and people didn't have to be in London to be briefed anymore. So, and we did well and built up all of that, and we brought a lot of cases. Took pleasure in fighting poll tax for people who were going to be imprisoned, ironically again, for not paying their poll tax, and we won quite a few cases there. And I stood for Labour in Lambeth as a councillor, and I stood for Labour in 1992, later on in Plymouth. Yeah, done quite a lot, and then I became a judge in immigration and asylum.
Ant or Dak?
Ant.
What 3 things would you take with you on a desert island?
Wife and 2 children.
Okay. Rugby or football?
Rugby.
Red or brown sauce?
Brown.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
3 people, living or dead, who you would invite to your dinner party?
Armand Hammer. Nigel Farage, because ironically I've never met him or spoken to him. Mrs. Roosevelt.